Could you talk more about the meaning of this title and how it came to be useful in terms of describing the work in the exhibition?
Well, Estructuras resonantes is kind of almost a bit of a kind of, conduit to allow me to have a conversation about different elements of my practice. I think there was a desire to experiment with sound, but I think it's this idea of the echo, this idea of something that it kind of permeates through time and space. Particularly in relation to the title of this curatorial project, The Economy of Living Things, I explicitly now I think for me is an opportunity to talk about around the work and maybe arriving at how some of these kind of investigations started 3 years ago with the Mercantile novel in Davis Renner in New York, and so with this installation in New York that was very much about arriving or starting from a biographical point of view and working with this a factory, and also in it is embedded an idea of immigration, but also kind of living a very kind of set social structure that I found myself in. And I think that for me was very destabilizing as a person. And then I think that trauma allowed me to kind of have a deeper awareness and concern as to what the world is from a kind of wider view, speaking about geography, social politics, and so on and so forth.
I continued working. Gradually, I'm starting to talk about union matters with my fellow workers at lunchtime. In the meantime, my wife is taking me for
In a way, the idea of resonance structures, I would argue, gives way to the possibility to include other voices, one of whom is your father, Belisario, and a specific work, a sound work titled Belisario's Story. Could you discuss more about the development of that work and how it came into being as a project?
And a couple of years ago, I found myself traveling with my father, and I thought, it would be interesting if maybe you put this kind of stories into writing. Right. And so with this installation here at the Jeu de Paume, which the story being translated into 14 different languages, and the idea is that, and the desire is to continue the translation process, is so that it somehow has an ambition for it to continue to expand and to give the opportunity for a diversity of cultures, societies to maybe be aware of this story and in it potentially find themselves a kind of or find a kind of familiarity, particularly in the context of individuals living in Europe or coming from otherness.
So one of the centerpieces of the exhibition is a work called Entitled that you shot, I believe, last year. At its center is a group of Bedouin Arab Moroccan musicians kind of playing music in a live context. I was wondering if you could talk about where that work began as a project and also as a process, because in a way it's a kind of live work.
To begin with, it wasn't really considered, or I didn't see it as an artwork. It's like drawing, for example. And it made me think very much about how I draw, this kind of idea of carrying equipment with you, a piece of paper, a pen. It's also making or highlighting, a cultural moment in the face of where we are, of otherness, putting it literally in the center of things.
Right.
It's the idea of injecting, I think very much for the first time, injecting how other cultures kind of live and exist.
And and in your early video works, I think this is what's most prominent, is the kind of focus on La Paila in Colombia, the characters that you encountered in your general life, but also how much a family was a part of that process of, in a way, documenting your lived experience. Could you talk more about your video work and how it began, or where it began?
Well, it was never really about a kind of identity or biography, but somehow always having a desire to stay connected to otherness, you know, staying connected to a place that I was taken away from, and therefore it felt like video, just like I think all of my practice, had a desire to use, I guess, art as a kind of therapy. And so, you know, being able for the first time, you know, after 5 years of being in Europe, to go back to Colombia and acquaint myself with my friends again. But also it was problematic because I couldn't really connect again in the same way that I had romanticized in my head. And so video became the one of the only ways in which I could connect again.